All right, we are live. Hey, Hector, is it Thursday? It is officially Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a great show for you. We've got an all-star lineup. I'm just looking really fast to see. We've got a lot of people joining. We're going to start in just, 1 minute while everybody just jumps into the Zoom meeting. Do me a second, if you would, everybody. Check in. Let us know who you are, where you're from really quick. And Hector, if you don't mind, just kind of show me slowly so I can get a sense because it's going to go real quick. All right. I see Cabo San Lucas. I see Pittsburgh. Man, I think I need to get my eyes checked again. I see Park City. I'm not surprised, in case you guys are wondering, I'm talking to my producer over here, that it's going to be a lot of high-end agents. It's going to be a lot of luxury markets. So while everybody's checking in and saying hello, I want to thank my partner in crime, Alyssia Essig. You'll have a lot of context for her. Alyssia has been a friend of mine. She's been a coach for us. She's been a client forever. And part of the reason why I asked her to be on here today is she is, I say with love and respect, one of the most litigious real estate agents I know. She is the former board president of her, her specific city in Baltimore, or I should say in Maryland. She was a part of the CCP ruling, which is part of another reason why I wanted her here. And when I say litigious, I really should say she, like so many of us, she fights for the customer, right? Like that's really what it's all about. So Alyssia, glad you're with us. And of course, really the mastermind behind all this, Malte Kramer, my longtime buddy, right? CEO of Luxury Presence. Malte and Alyssia, welcome to the show while people are checking in and saying hello. So Alyssia, I'll go to you first. Are you excited to be on the show today?
Oh my gosh, yes, it's been a minute. I love it when you invite me. Tom says, hey, want to be on the show? Yes.
Yes. Well, I do appreciate that. And you, Malte, before we kind of jump into the meat of the show, and I've got a bunch of talking points to get us started. What was your inspiration behind this? I mean, obviously Luxury Presence, you serve so many agents around the world. And really when you look at, Clear Cooperation and pocket listings, private listings, it's really a high-end thing. What was your inspiration?
Yeah, first off, good to be here. Good to see everyone. Our goal with this was to provide information and tools so that everyone here can be ready for whatever scenario plays out. And yes. For some context, my company, Luxury Presence, works with over 14,000 real estate businesses, representing over 60,000 agents and over 300 billion in sales last year. So we have access to a lot of data. And so we wanted to go to our customers and find out how they currently work with private listings and how they're thinking about potential changes to CCP and what these next months might look like. And so really the goal here is to provide as much helpful information and tools as possible.
Outstanding. So with that said, let's officially jump in. I do want to thank everybody for spending some time with us today. We're going to try and be done in 90 minutes or less, always being mindful of the or less. And I do want to give a big shout out to Malte and Luxury Presence and his team. And honestly, the over 1,000 agents across the country that took the time to answer the questions that helped us form this luxury, how do we market these pocket listings playbook, which guess all of you will be receiving. So today, the plan, and I want to stress to you all, if you have context for me or you don't, in my 35 years of doing this, 22 years ago, starting this company, 29 years of being a business coach, I've always prided myself on in moments of uncertainty, provide insight, provide guidance. And many of you, if you've been exposed to me, you can look back just recently to the pandemic, right? There was 3 things we talked about during the pandemic to help everybody, navigate a very uncertain time. And then last year, leading up to the August 17th ruling of buyer agency, same thing. Myself and Alyssia, my goodness, I think we personally trained 140,000 agents on a few Zooms, and that doesn't include all the YouTube views and office shares. So I want to remind everybody, in moments of uncertainty, in this case, Clear Cooperation. And just to be very clear, what we're talking about is a note I have is prior to Clear Cooperation, data shows that up to 12% of all homes were sold off market prior to Clear Cooperation. Now, most notably, everybody would imagine it's going to be high-end properties, but it was also, and you'll see this in the survey results, properties that maybe were a bank owned, completely beat up. Maybe it was wholesale, right? As an example. So we know there's always a market for it, and we're not saying there isn't, but we know that there's, potentially 3 changes that could happen. This we'll unpack that. But the thing that I want you to get is whether it was during the pandemic or it was during buyer agency and the uncertainty around that, it always comes down to 3 things. And that's really the centerpiece of this event, if you will, today. One is to remind everybody to stay calm, right? To don't get caught up in what if scenarios, but instead, number 2, plan and be prepared. What is so unique about certainly our 3 guest agents today and all of you watching, I hope that you're the kind of person who understands we've got to be able to be agile and adjust quickly. But in order for us to do that, we've got to look at what the options are. And today we're going to show you options, and it gives everybody's going to get access to the 35-page playbook so you can read it, understand it, and then make the adjustments accordingly to be compliant, to do right by the consumer, et cetera. And then the third thing, and really this is a bonus for all of us because here we are on March 20th. I think today's the first day of spring. The spring market's right around the corner, and I know everybody needs more listings. So I've asked my buddy Jimmy Mackin to spend some time with us today, about probably 25, 30 minutes at the end, and walk us through the 5 most important campaigns. Now listen carefully. The 5 most important campaigns to take every listing you have and generate 1, 2, or 3 more listings from that listing, whether it's a pocket listing or it's inside of the MLS. So for us to get started, I wrote down a couple notes, and it was, between Alyssia and Malte. And actually, I really want to point to Alyssia first. Would you just take a second and bring us up to speed? For those that weren't really familiar with, as a board president, you were heavily involved in the 2018 CCP. Very fast, how did we get here? Sure. And then I want to talk about the consumer side, the seller side, but we'll do that in a sec. So Alyssia, how did we get here?
Sure. So, as you know, there's the National Association of Realtors, there's the state association, there's local association. I was the Greater Baltimore Board of Realtors president in 2018, which earns you a board of directors seat on the NAR board. The year that I was there, the Clear Cooperation was put forth as a vote. It's kind of like the Electoral College. So representatives, depending on how big or small your association is. I voted for it. And the reason for that was because there was a consensus that there were listings not available to the general public. And the National Association of Realtors, if you are carrying the designation of realtor, then you have to take the Code of Ethics training. And the Code of Ethics training is duties to the public and duties to other realtors. So we have a lot of fiduciary duties. The point of the matter is, the reason that we got here was because most of those who were voting wanted to make sure that all properties were available to all consumers and that all consumers had access to all properties. And so they put the Clear Cooperation policy into effect that said that the property needed to be into the MLS unless the homeowner decided to sign a waiver.
Mm-hmm. So very simple, right?
So,
it was really about transparency and sort of like access for all.
Correct.
So we're going to talk about today this survey of the 1,000 people, and we're not going to take you through 35 slides, my friends. We're going to empower you. We're going to give you the key insights. Malte and Alyssia and I are going to talk about it. We're going to get to the panel, which I'm going to say is going to be a massive highlight to hear from 3 extraordinary agents that are sitting right now in the green room, and then finish with Jimmy Mackin. So no matter what, you can go out and get more listings. But first, our friends over at 1000 Watt, we took let's get the agents' input. Our friends at 1000 Watt said, let's go survey 2,000 home sellers. And correct me if I'm wrong, Alyssia, the report was a percentage of them were experienced sellers and a percentage of them were prospective first-time sellers. I think there was a couple.
Which hadn't sold yet. Yeah. And it was about 50-50 in that sampling.
Yes. So 2,000 sellers. And of course, all this is available online. If you just Google 1000 Watt, recent CCP seller report, you can download it. But Alyssia's going to share really the 2 or 3 key findings. And I think that sets the tone for what we want to do today. So Alyssia, would you share, what were the most important findings from the seller side of CCP?
Yeah. So like Tom said, that there were, I'm sorry, I'm looking up at another screen with my notes. what Tom said, that there were sort of two groups in this 2001 who had actually sold homes before and ones that were thinking about selling more homes. And out of the homes, the people who did sell homes, 75% of those respondents said that they did want their home. They preferred listing on the MLS. Now, what's interesting is from the prospective sellers, 35% said they were not interested in using the MLS. However, I think a very important key to note was that out of that 35%, when those 35% were given more context and more information, 70% of the 35% actually retracted and chose to actually put their homes on the market. So more context, more information, and you're going to hear a lot about that today as we go through the different components of this, is that it's really about more information for the consumer.
Always. Malte, thoughts on the seller report before I ask everybody watching a question, and then we're going to go into some slides. Thoughts on what Alyssia just shared there? The 97% ultimately said once they knew more information, they wanted it, but that still means 3% of this year, 4.2 to 4.3 million properties are still saying, I don't want to be inside the MLS. And that doesn't include all our friends in Manhattan.
Yeah. And this really depends by market, right? And by price point. So what our data showed in this survey was that in higher end markets, there's a higher a likelihood that an agent is working with private listings, not surprisingly.
Yes. All right. So with that said, my friends, I want to ask everybody a question. So in the chat, here's what I want to know. Tell us, if I said to you, of your last 10 listings, what percentage of the sellers wanted it to be off market? Just anecdotally, let's say in the chat, what percentage? So slow it down for me. Okay. So I saw as high as 30%. I'm seeing a lot of zeros, a lot of nones, a lot of zeros. Interesting. Okay. There we go. I got a 2%. Okay. Half, not surprised. Okay. 20%. Okay, 99%. Interesting. So very interesting. And I know from my panelists that are watching, they're seeing the same exact thing I'm seeing. It looks like, again, I would just be anecdotal. It looks like about 60, 70% of you, it's a 0 out of the last 10. And then it's a pretty stark contrast between the, say, 30 or 40% of you that it's, every time it's 33%, it's, 2 out of 10. So we know there's always going to be a market. Let's actually, if we would, Hector, go ahead and pull up the slides. And I want to give everybody a little teaser into the playbook. Again, everybody's going to get a copy of this. It's 35 pages. I think it's actually, okay, I got to go all the way back here. I think that may be, yep, that's it. All right. So again, I'm not going to bore you on it. No one needs a boring Zoom meeting. Let's get to the top agents and into the insights here, and then to Jimmy with listings. But what you're going to receive is this 35-page document. We're calling it the playbook. It's everything from the survey data to how to prepare for potential changes, right? A pretty fast overview, and really how to take advantage of private listings effectively. Of course, we have a disclaimer that says this is just designed for information for you, right? We're not saying this is the perfect litigious way to do it inside every state, every country, wherever you're marketing. We did survey 1,000 agents, and I don't think any one of you would be shocked that Malte, the response was kind of all over the board. And again, most of the people we were interviewing, we're selling luxury, we're selling higher end homes. Malte, any thoughts that you saw just from the sort of broad spectrum of responses from the agents?
Yeah, agents were remarkably split. 35% wanted CCP to remain as is, 36% wanted it modified, and 29% wanted it repealed entirely. And not surprisingly, these opinions differ by sales volume. So only 10% of agents below 2 million in annual sales said they wanted to repeal CCP. But when you look at the answers from agents with more than 50 million in annual sales, that number goes to 48%. And so depending on the market someone is in, depending how much they work with listings, we could see that in the data here, that the needs were quite different.
Yes. And if we went back to Alyssia, looking at this just on the seller side, what was the number one reason why somebody did not want to be, like the consumer? What was the number one reason why they didn't want to be in the MLS?
It was privacy.
Yeah. Privacy, 1000%, right? I don't think anybody's shocked by that. Now, I am not going to read you everything inside risk and compliance. I am going to remind you that if you are a realtor, for my friends maybe in Manhattan, right? Maybe my friends down in Cabo San Lucas that are watching, or in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and you're just checking in, we've got some basic rules that everybody has to follow. I think the big thing is just a reminder of the do's and don'ts. And I know all of you are smart. I know all of you follow the do's and don'ts. Obviously, a big part of this is about fair housing and compliance and making sure that you're allowing access to all parties that want to see these properties. But I think really this is probably one that, Alyssia, would you unpack for a second? Establishing a seller consent protocol. I think everybody that's going to do it has got to make sure they're following the right way. But what's your 2 cents on this?
So, when you talk about a seller consent protocol, I am reminded of a strategy you actually suggested many, many years ago that I immediately took it and implemented it as like one of the number one slides in my slide deck for both my own personal practice, along with all of my coaching clients and anyone else. And it's a simple question. It is, what is the most important thing about the realtor you choose to represent you? Yeah. And when you are asking the seller exactly what they want and what they need and what they require, you can then, craft an entire marketing scenario that works for them. Because remember, we don't make decisions for our clients. And so whether it's clear cooperation, whether it's, like you said, it stays the same, it's tweaked, it's changed, whatever it happens, ultimately, and you said this, it is about what the client wants, and we don't make decisions for our clients. So when you're going through this and you have this seller consent protocol, currently all MLSs, at least that I know of, require a waiver form that is like, if the seller has said, I'm not interested in putting my home on the MLS, they have to sign a waiver form. I don't see that necessarily changing, because that again is, we are providing the various options to the seller. Ask the question, what's most important? 99% of the time when you ask them what's most important, it is that communication factor. So when you get that waiver signed, they move forward and you can market the home as they have directed, because that is our relationship. That's our fiduciary responsibility.
Right. And then just going back to this report, and thank you for your quick insight. We've got a compliance checklist for you. We've got strategies around it. And again, you're going to get this entire 35-page report, but you're going to see inside here that, it's basically the do's and don'ts and how to, and I really, we've got like these 3 incredible agents. I really want to get to them to get their insights, but just know that when you get this report, you're going to see, we put together a 4-phase listing launch for a private listing based upon today's rules, right? Based upon today's rules. In the next few weeks, if the rules change, myself, Malte, Alyssia, we will very quickly apply the new rules. But if you're sitting here now and you're like, I've never done it before and I didn't even know that form was available, and there is a percentage of home sellers that are like when I sold my house in Newport Beach, I'm like, I don't want to be on the market, right? I have that choice, right? I sign a consent, I sell the property off market, everybody's happy. Always and forever, in moments of uncertainty, what we need is a plan. And what we're doing here is we're giving you here's a really good launch plan that you can use. Again, Malte, talk about this, because Alyssia, is going on listing appointments every day, as so many people out there that are watching are. The number one thing that people want is communication. And, you guys have done a nice job creating this sort of way to use technology to manage private listings. And, some brokerages have, others have it maybe a more ad hoc system. What's your insight here?
Yeah, we actually see that a lot of folks are just starting to get these tools in place. A lot of times private listings are managed in email chains and scattered spreadsheets. And so we've built a lot of technology to make that easier, both the sharing with agents, and it's tools like brokerage listing networks where you can share office exclusives within your brokerage, buyer matching features where you can find other agents that have a relevant buyer. And then obviously the sharing with the consumer so that you can do that safely and securely with things like password protected websites, dedicated mobile app, client portals, and other tools. So I do recommend that anyone who works with private listing, that you think about your technology stack and the tools that you use to share both with agents and with consumers.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So again, marketing checklists, and there's literally 35 slides. I'm not going to take you through every one of them. Instead, let's go ahead and kill the slides, if you would, Hector, and let's bring in three extraordinary agents that carve time out of their day, one while she's on vacation in Miami, to share a couple answers to the questions of like how they do it now. So Hector, let's go ahead and pull in. I know we've got Maggie and Cindy and Noble. Right. And here we go. I see Cindy. Welcome. All right. There's Noble. There's Maggie. So, Cindy, maybe we'll go one at a time. I'll go Cindy, Maggie, then Noble. Just maybe for the 10 agents out there that don't know who you are, don't have context. Cindy, give us just a little inside baseball. Who are you? Give us a little insight.
Hey, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Cindy Ambuehl. I'm with Christie's International Real Estate, and I work out of California. I mainly work on the west side, which is Brentwood, Santa Monica, and Palisades. So pray for all of us here in the Palisades, please. But I've been doing this for about 16 years, and I love it. And I'm really proud to be here today to speak to everyone, listen, learn, and share.
Thank you, Cindy. And just for context, and I'll ask, Maggie and Noble the same question. Off the top of your head, what percentage of the sellers would you say you work with that want to be offline?
Well, it's interesting because I'm an old timer. So I come from back before there was even Zillow, Redfin, and the only way to expose their property was the MLS. So when off markets and pockets started coming around, it really shifted and became so much of the Wild West out here. Yes. When I sit down for a listing appointment, I probably have, honestly, 50% of them saying they want to keep it off market. I deal with a lot of high profile clients, as you can imagine, on the West Side. Yep. By the time I finish my listing appointment with them, I would say maybe 75% of them, to Alyssia's point, has converted and switched over and decided that maybe the MLS is a good idea, because I believe in the more you expose it, the more you'll get for it. And I do educate them, and I do talk with them about everything we're going to be doing for them. And the more they expose it, the better for them.
Agreed. Maggie, take a second and kind of same thing. Give them context for who you are, how long in the biz, and that same question. What percentage of the time?
Sure. Well, hi, everyone, and hi to everybody who's watching. Thanks, Tom and Malte, for having me here today. I'm Maggie Gold Seelig. I'm the CEO and founder of MGS Group Real Estate. We're in the greater Boston area, Manhattan, and I dabble a little bit in Miami, where I'm logging in from today. Let's think. I have probably over 60 to 70% of my personal agent business happens off of the MLS. I think the MLS is a vibrant and wonderful marketplace. We have a mechanism in place to deal with clients who decide for their own strategic reasons that they want to stay off of a public market in a what I'll call a private marketplace. It's still on the market when you have a private listing. It's just not on an MLS. So we have a off MLS form, for example, in Massachusetts that we use. Again, this is seller driven. This is client driven, often around privacy, concerns. I work with a lot of famous individuals or business leaders. They don't want to end up on the front page of the newspaper. Yeah. And so we also have sellers at lower price points who say, for reasons of just like ease, like, I don't want to have 30 people come see my house. I'm glad to have 5 and I just need 1. So we are constantly responding, obviously, I think all of us on this grid, to what sellers want and need. And then you have to create a strategic plan that tracks to that. So I'm really excited to be here, and thank you.
Beautiful, Maggie. Thank you. Noble, for the people that don't know who you are, kind of same question, but could you give them a little insight on the New York City marketplace? Because most agents in New York City are not part of NAR.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Noble Black. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you and Malte having us here. I am at Douglas Elliman in New York. I've been in the business for 20 years, been at Elliman for about 10 years. My business is based mostly in Manhattan, but now in the Hamptons for the last year as well. Yeah, in New York, we don't have an MLS. It's Rebney, and everyone still kind of opts into that. Slightly different rules, but it's not a technical MLS. There's some technical differences, I guess, with that. The off-market situation here is different, I think, from what our friends and colleagues are out west. I mean, the friends that I have, particularly like Beverly Hills, Malibu, that's always been a very large part of that market. New York, it's never really been the case here. It's creeping up a lot more.
Yes.
Personally, I think that's not really a healthy thing for the market, but we can get into that. But in terms of our listings, to answer your question, I would say less than 5% of that. We certainly show a lot that are off market. But again, when people bring that up, I usually have a discussion in terms of the pros and cons. And, even for our high-end clients, they typically usually list. Again, that's kind of changing. But until the last 2 years, it's really not been an off-market market with very rare exception.
You're lucky.
I see the same. I see the same in the city. But no, go ahead. You were going to say, Cindy.
You're lucky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's far more complex. I was mentioning before we started this. I've lived in Corona Del Mar my entire life. I've spent a lot of time in Jackson Hole, and now I live in Dallas. And in Dallas, if you went to the Highland Park market, or even a little farther north, it's kind of our Noble. It's like our Beverly Hills. There are certain segments of the marketplace that literally 35% of all the transactions are done off market, because they literally call their friend Maggie and go, Maggie, Kathy and I are moving, and oh no, what are you guys doing? What's going on? And they go, like, don't do anything because my friend Cindy wants to buy the house.
Right.
And literally it's done like that. I'm not saying in every market, but I can think of 2 or 3 that I've lived in and worked in that is a healthy percentage of the market. So it begs the question, and I want to go to all 3 of you. And I'll go to Maggie first. You have a large percentage of these sellers. How do you set the right expectation with the seller? If they're like, hey, I want to be private, and we all know that there is some limitation to it not being inside the MLS, how do you then properly set the expectation with the seller to know what's to come and how it's going to work?
Well, I have a crystal ball, and then I just know everything. No. So I have really honest and frank conversations with my sellers around, look, if you're on the MLS, for example, if I'm listing a property in Boston, we go on the MLS, you're 100% sure that 100% of the market knows about it, right?
Yeah.
From Boston proper all the way to London to India to wherever, right? You're syndicated all over the globe. You're instantly global. Your listing is global. So I educate sellers that by being off of an MLS, you are not opting in to be in front of 100% of the market. You're necessarily not reaching 100% of the market. And depending on the property, I have to say, look, I think in an off-market campaign, if that's your preference, you're going to be reaching 70% of the market, 80% of the market. You have to be transparent about what that means, because you'll never be 100% sure if you're not on the MLS or on, Noble is absolutely right. In New York, there's no centralized MLS, so we're all putting our listings out there and then through Rebney opting in. But it's just a factor of if you want to be discreet and private, you're necessarily choosing as a seller to not be out in front of 100% of the marketplace.
Right. So what always concerns me is, we know exposure is the game, right? And the more exposure they have in Noble, I can hear the almost concern in your voice, this trend is going the wrong direction. It's just better when everybody has access to it. But Cindy, I'm curious, same question, if you know it's better that they put it in the MLS, what do you say to that person to say, no, really, this is the right move for you?
Right. I agree with everything Maggie just said. Listen, I sit down and I have one-on-one, very honest, heartfelt conversations with my sellers. And I'm very transparent. My clients work with me time and time again because I give it to them straight. I don't candy coat things for them. And I'll tell them, I'll say, listen, here are examples in the past of homes that I had off market. And yes, I know a lot of people. I have great agents that I'll reach out to. They know a lot of people. I will get the word out for you. I will absolutely get the word out, but nothing will compare to putting it on internationally on the MLS. Nothing will compare to that. So sometimes they want us to try it as an off market first, see if they get lucky. And then if we don't end up selling it, then they'll go to putting it on the MLS. But to what I was just saying is I'll actually give them examples because we have so many of them where we've tried it that way, and we got close, but didn't sell it. I had an actress, she ended up going out of town for 3 months to shoot a film. She's like, okay, now that I'm gone and I don't have to worry about people knowing that I live here, go ahead and put it on the MLS. And I'm out of the country anyway, so it doesn't matter. I feel safe with that. I put it on. I had multiple offers, 3 million more than we even thought we were going to get by fully exposing it. So again, I go back to what I said earlier, that I think the more you expose it, the more you get. But it is a case by case. And there are very real reasons that some sellers simply don't want that exposure. And I'm dealing with several of them right now. And we're just having to do our best and manage their expectations, let them know everything that we are doing. Our hands are a little bit tied because we're not fully exposing it. But here is what we are doing for you, here to answer any questions. But I always leave it up to the seller. I think it's so important to have the seller be in the driving seat of how we're going to be controlling their listing, what's exposed, what's not. They have personal reasons for wanting it, and it needs to be their decision, not ours.
Yes. So a lot of people talk about the kind of testing the waters, testing the price, testing the market as a strategy. Noble, are you seeing, well, I just want to be more direct. Noble, if it's becoming more of a trend, why? What do you think is kind of the, put your finger on the pulse, and then what are you doing to help navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think is bad about it and what I think is unhealthy for our market, because I do think, not to throw stones, but I think there's a few brokers that are encouraging that, telling their sellers, hey, this is a strategy to get more money. And again, as they were saying, like, I think this is all about communication. There's very valid reasons that you want to be off market, and there's nothing wrong with that. We should all have the ability to do that, right? But there needs to be a very honest conversation. If you want to sell it off market, you're likely going to leave money on the table. Just as you were talking about certain neighborhoods, there's certain buildings that we know, okay, there's a line of people that would love to buy in this building. They want this penthouse. But for a generic 3-bedroom that's in, whatever location, that's not the way to get more money. If you were really sensitive about people knowing that's on the market, totally valid. If you're sensitive about publicity, totally valid. But you need to recognize it's going to be a very tight group that you're going out to. You're not going to get the word out to even, and if you really want to keep it secret, and it's a really big name celebrity in New York, you're not even going out to 10 or 15 brokers, right? So there's a cost to doing that. And what I think is unhealthy is that I think a lot of brokers, not a lot, I think there's a few brokers that are really emphasizing this because, frankly, it's a good way for them to get double-sided deals, right?
Yep.
They're going out saying, you're going to get a higher price if you do this. And I think that's unhealthy and not a good thing for our market. That's my pushback with it.
Yep.
And just to follow on too, like what we were talking about, one more thought, like what I would tell a seller in that instance is, we can absolutely sell it off market, right? But you're not hiring me to sell your apartment. You're hiring me to sell it for the best price, right? And to give you the honest advice. So just because my buyer or somebody that I know is going to buy it doesn't mean that's the right buyer. Every one of the big, expensive buildings around us in Billionaires Row, every one of them has a big expensive apartment that was $80 million that was sold by some broker that no one knows. And you're not capturing those people. So if you're doing this because you really value the privacy and you're willing to leave some money on the table, that's fine, but be aware of what you're doing.
Yes. Smart. Maggie.
I just don't know. And I want to be clear. I actually see that at times, and again, this is seller driven, consumer driven. So definitely not, it has to come from your seller, in my opinion, in terms of creating a strategic plan. It has to be an open dialogue. I do have instances, though, where because something was off market, I was able to get a higher price for my seller. And I'm talking about an ultra high net worth type of property where somebody feels like, and I think most of my off markets, if not all of them, happen on a co-broke. So I do think it's important that when we talk about off market, we understand that there's a universe of either brokers or ways of communicating with the people that you think could have your buyer, or putting it out to some smaller subset that's just not syndicating it through every website. I think that's something that sellers really don't love about the way that MLS is syndicated now through Zillow, through Redfin, and then to every real estate site, including the MGS Group real estate site, right? It's just out there in a very broad way. Some people just don't feel comfortable with that. But I do think, in fairness, there are certain properties where being off market from the seller perspective, and in actuality will yield a higher price.
Sure. And I think always case studies, examples, pros and cons. I think the central theme that everybody's getting, and I know there's a lot of chatter, in the chat always, is at the end of the day, it is about serving the customer. What does the customer want? But we always have to remember, and I say this, we have three of the best agents, in the entire United States here. The customer doesn't always know what's right.
Right.
Like Noble, you said it perfectly. We're in the driver's seat. We understand the business. We understand supply and demand. And Maggie, there is going to be that situation or multiple times where you can say super unique property. So I think the real key fundamentally, I know Alyssia will back me up on this, is you got to inform the seller of what the options are. And we have to always be mindful of if they say we really want to be private, you got to give them the pros and the cons. And you got to be like, and I know, I'm seeing all the head nods, right? Everybody out there is saying yes, right? We got to overly educate. So let's just play a game.
One more thing.
Please, Noble.
There's also a difference, and we need to be aware. There's a difference in selling off market when a seller's trying to sell, and selling off market for a high price when the seller's kind of indifferent and a buyer approaches them, right?
Yes.
And I think a lot of what gets reported as big numbers are where the seller's sitting here, they're fine owning it for another 5 years, and a buyer has to have that. The buyer's willing to overpay for that. But if a seller's driving the process and wanting to sell, that's typically not the best way, right? Because the seller's already indicating to some market, it's probably a fraction of the market, but they're telling people, we want to sell. And there's a very different psychology. And I find that the buyers will overpay if it's not available. They're not going to overpay if they know it's just going out to a smaller audience.
100%. We've all heard I'm sure you guys have all heard the wonderful story of Bill Gates buying a house in Palm Desert. He literally knocked on the door of one of the properties in our neighborhood and, hi, I'm Bill Gates. I'd like to buy your house. And literally Noble with a checkbook in his hand. How much would you guys like? We know those crazy anecdotal stories. But again, I want to just say it's all about, to your point, it's about what's right for the seller, what's the right move for the seller. But let's play a game here, just being mindful. One of three things are going to happen. Either zero change to the current CCP. Another option is it gets eliminated entirely. And I think, and again, I don't know, I would guess the most likely scenario is slight adjustments. Regardless of what happens, I really want to ask you, the three of you, more of a strategic question. Like, when something changes, what do you do? Like, when something fundamentally shifts in the business. There was a time, and maybe I'm dating myself, when we faxed offers, right?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Right. So, like we've all, like, does anybody have the old HP 12 calculator? Right. Like there was a time. So the three of you, the reason why we asked you to be on here is, yes, you're remarkable. Yes, this is your marketplace. But Noble, it's also because you all adapt well to changes. So maybe for the audience watching, like, what's your insight? Like when things shift, like last year, the buyer agency rules, right? When things shift, what is kind of your go-to Maggie playbook for things are changing? Here's what I do.
Yeah, so we're in a constantly evolving market. To talk about the changes that happened last year, and all these newspapers are calling me like, I think it's much ado about nothing. Haven't we been talking about fees with our sellers and buyers since the beginning of time?
Right.
So Xeric era. But in any event, pivoting is a huge part of being successful in real estate. Whether that's around clear cooperation, buyer agency, any kind of conversation or anything that's happening in our industry. I think it's exciting. I think change is exciting. I think I always embrace change. I look at evolution of an industry as necessary. And I say, get educated. So everybody who's on this webinar, bravo, brava. Like, it's amazing to spend time with super smart people. So thank you for including me in this group to discuss this issue, the change. Be ready to pivot, get informed, read Tom Ferry's playbook. From what I saw in those slides, you've got some gems in there. So I can't wait to digest it and soak it up. I can't wait to share it with the folks at MGS Group and beyond. So become educated, talk to your peers. I find that we have to get out of silos. I talk to my agents about that all the time. Communicate. We're a community of brokers and agents. And the more that we work together and become educated and just pivot, and we're going to be okay, guys. It's going to be great.
Yes. I love it. Cindy, thoughts. How do you, I mean, you're nearly 2 decades in. We've seen a lot of change in 2 decades. I mean, hey, the internet didn't really exist 2 decades ago. Instagram didn't exist 2 decades ago. We were going to
DocuSign did not
Blockbuster to go get
exist.
VHS cassettes, right? Like, how do you
Oh,
continually
we're
adjust?
dating ourselves, Tom. We're dating ourselves.
Sorry.
Dating ourselves here. I'm good with it. Listen, again, to Maggie's point, pivot. But I think it's so hugely important to stand back and listen and over communicate and have these conversations and really understand the meaning of these changes.
Yes.
It's not just, oh, there was this change, let's pivot. What is the meaning behind it? What are the pros and cons of it? What are the consequences of it? How does it benefit our client? How does it not? How do we work around it? I got my license right in 2007 when there was the big crash. And we have since had ULA. A lot of you may not know, but in LA, the city of LA, we had the ULA, the mansion tax that came into effect almost 2 years ago. And it took our market into a screeching halt. And what does that mean for the sellers? So I pride myself on knowing the meaning of it and how it affects everybody, both sides of the coin, so that I can sit down with my clients and explain it to them, help them to find comfort in it. We also then had, as we know, the clear cooperation kick in, but we're dealing with fires. Look what's just happened to our community it's been decimated, you guys. Unless you drive through it, you can't really understand it. You can't really see the impact of it. So we sit down with clients on a daily basis. When I hang up, the first thing I'm doing is going and meeting with more fire victims. I'm in the Palisades. We're meeting in hotel lobbies. We're helping them to find new schools, churches, temples, pharmacies, doctors, communities. It's gone. So if you're not capable of sitting down with the client and helping them to pivot, in all of these different situations, they trust you. They trust you to put their needs first. And that's what we'll do also with clear cooperation. If hopefully it's altered. I don't see that it's going to be going away, but there should be optionality, right? Don't you think that it's only right that the seller gets to make the decision? And I think the office exclusive needs to go bye-bye. I think that is it's disingenuous. It doesn't work for the market. So again, I think sitting down, having honest conversations and letting them know it's going to be okay. You're on their side. You're a partner in this. We're going to work through this together. Here's what I can tell you. Here's how I can educate you and get you through what you need. And I can help you.
I love it. I love it. Noble, same question, maybe just a different take. Like the New York City marketplace goes through a lot of change in different ways. Right? Like what's happening in the stock market, right? Who's getting bonuses? Who's not getting bonuses? Are the Russians moving out of the not? I mean, I just think through my 30 years of going to the city, like there's always a mega trend and then that trend suppresses. So there's always change. What's your best insight on how to navigate it all and really stay, the forefront of your clients' minds?
Yeah. I mean, I thought Cindy's answer was great. I think it constantly comes down to educating yourself and trying to be an expert, right? Communicating that with your client, whatever it is, telling them what's going on. That's what they're looking to us for. I mean, especially technology continues to advance, all of this AI. We were talking about it yesterday, but I think there's always going to be a role for good brokers in terms of like really explaining and adding value to the sheer data that's out there. But I think it's becoming an expert, communicating it with them, and then just keeping their interest at heart. If they know that you're doing what's best for them, and that you're really acting in their interest, whether that means pausing on a deal or giving them advice not to go forward with something. At the end of the day, it's not rocket science. This is not a hard business. It's just you're helping somebody with a big transaction to them. And if they feel like you're smart and well-educated and acting on their behalf, they tend to be loyal to you.
Yes.
Very much.
I was literally doing a survey with a friend of mine who started a very large portal, not named Zillow, and realtor.com. And he said to me, I think the thing that we all try and do the most is do our best to instill confidence so our clients can make good decisions. Right? Like, so that means you sometimes almost have to overshare. Like I had somebody made a comment here, like, oh, I can't believe Tom Ferry's talking about like, pocket listings. And I'm like, it's a part of the market, right? Like my job is to expose us to all the ideas and then trust that we will all make good decisions and only think of our clients first. And that's certainly what you got from the three of you. So thank you all so much. we're going to go a different direction now, because the one thing I know is we've got some insights. Everyone's going to get an email saying, here's the 35-page playbook. So everyone's going to have access to it. But I think there's a really good chance that some of us, and we should bring Jimmy back in, some of us are also going to need, as we sit here on March 20th, to attract more listings. Maybe not everybody, Cindy, has, Maggie, the track record, Noble, the inbound. Like I was just with my client, Maxine Gellens, who's, by the way, going to be 87 years old in 3 weeks, and one of the most dominant agents in the La Jolla marketplace of San Diego. And literally, Maggie, we're chatting the other day, and she's like, I've got 5 new listings coming on the market, 10 million, 20 million, 5 million, 3 million. And most of it is inbound because of her reputation, right? But not everybody has that, right? Thank God many of us do. So I want to have Jimmy unpack for us those 5 campaigns, 5 ways that you take your listing and turn it into more listings. So why don't we let's highlight Jimmy, if you would, Hector. Let's highlight Jimmy, let him take it away. And if for some reason, Maggie, Cindy, Noble, if you all have to bounce, no harm, no foul, thank you for your time and thank you for your insights on this show. All right. So Jimmy, take it away, my friend.
Hey, Tom. Hey, everybody. It's funny as I listen to all of you talk about, what's best for the consumer and how to, get your clients the most amount of money for their home. The thought popped into my mind that I think it's an important sort of principle that we should all live by when it comes to generating more business from our listings, which is the MLS sets the floor and your marketing sets the ceiling. And so the simple fact that a home is on the MLS does not mean in any way, shape, or form you're maximizing the exposure. If you look at the data behind this, 65% of all the clicks on a Google search are going to be in the first 3 results. Yet if you search for something on Google, you're going to get tens of thousands of results and returns. And so the thing I want everyone to take away from this is that it's a noisy, busy, loud world out there. And if we're in the position, whether we have this CCP thing that comes down the pipe or not, there are so many things you can do as an agent today to get your clients' homes in front of more people. And if you do that, you will also benefit from that. So in today's session, what I'm going to do and what Tom has asked me to share with you today is what are things that you could add to your strategies that you might not be doing now that can help your clients get more exposure and help you get more business. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and I'm going to walk through these campaigns with you. And as I'm doing this, one thing I'd recommend doing is I would recommend making notes of, am I doing this? Yes or no, right? Am I doing this? Yes or no? Because I think what you're going to learn from today's session is there's a lot of opportunity ahead of us that we could take advantage of. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to walk through a handful of tactics, things that you can do. All these campaigns are campaigns that we source in listingleads.com. And I'm going to start with one of my favorite OG campaigns that I think everybody here who's listening and paying attention should implement, which is when is the right time to start promoting your listings? Most people, focus on promoting a listing after the listing agreement is signed, 24 hours before it's publicly available. But the right time to promote a listing is before you even have the listing, which is to promote a listing appointment. And let me give you an example of this. This is a campaign that every time I'm going to go on a listing appointment, I am sending this email. And again, I don't have a listing. All I'm doing is I'm communicating to the world that I'm meeting with someone who's thinking about potentially selling. Subject line, I'm about to go meet a potential seller. I can't share too much information with you, but this person's thinking about listing their home. What I can tell you is homes like this typically sell within a few days above the ask price. If you already know you want all the details, reply VIP, and I'll add you to my VIP list to send you all the information I can. The beauty of a campaign like this, it serves 2 primary purposes. If you send this to your database, you're going to get a bunch of people raise their hand because they want to get information about this listing that no other agent is going to have. And number 2, it puts you in a position where you can walk into that listing appointment 10 feet tall. Because whereas every other agent is going to be talking about what they're going to do to sell the house and how their great marketing plan has 35 steps and how they're connected to 10,000 other agents, you're walking into that listing appointment with a cheat code. You're like, hey, listen, I've already got 7 people who are interested in your home and the home isn't even on the market. Now, to extend that idea, that same concept, I would also apply a campaign like this. And the way I want you to think, I'm going to give you a text message. Like, I want everyone to write this down. This is how I want you to market. I want you to market like you gossip. Okay, so just write that down. Market like you gossip. Hey, Tom, I really can't share any details with me about this. Or, hey, Tom, you didn't hear this from me. Like, that's how you should set these messages up when you're prospecting. I just met with a seller who's thinking about putting their home on the market. I've already shared this with a few of my clients. It's causing them to rethink their timeline on selling. Have you noticed what's been going on in the market? And so what I want you to do is I want you to think about not the listing, but the appointment as the sort of origin or the first time in which you begin to promote the listing. You can send an email out to your database. You could post an Instagram story with the same script, but you can also one-to-one start texting people in your network with this script. Market like you gossip. All right, so building on that idea, let's talk about another concept here for a second, which is, I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll come back to it in just one moment. Let me just set the stage for this. The way I think about marketing is the best products, the best services, the things that we all use and love. The reason we use them is because it's easy for us to spread. It's easy for us to share. And so think about, like, if someone were to ask you about, early on in the pandemic, people asked about Peloton, like, what's a Peloton? It was easy for people to talk about what Peloton was. And so one of the things that I think is important in marketing is, how do we empower our database, our network, with strategies that can get our listings in front of more people? And so this campaign is such a killer strategy. We employ this all the time. It's called the forward to a friend strategy. So let's imagine you've got a database of 500 people in your database, and you're like, listen, 495 are not in market. As an example, the 495 are not in market. They're not going to actually move today, buy tomorrow, sell next week, but they know someone who is or will. And so the subject line, we use a psychological principle called priming. Subject line, forward to a friend. We're about to list a property in the next 24 hours that I believe will sell within the next X amount of days. The home was located in this city at this price point. Forward this email to a friend who you know is in the market but hasn't found a home yet. Here's my personal cell. They can call me directly. I can give you all the details. And it reminds me of this campaign, by the way. Again, I would love to hear in the chat, are you using this? This campaign is from the famous P.T. Barnum, where he says, nothing draws a crowd quite like a crowd. And so if I'm an agent right now, I'm saying the origin is a listing appointment. Can I market like a gossip? Can I start building some buzz around this listing that may or may not hit the market, but start some conversations? When I get the listing, yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Jimmy, I have to tell you, the first email was so effective that when you read the email and you said, simply reply VIP and I'll give you the scoop, you probably had 900 people in the chat for some reason write VIP. Now, for my friends that are writing VIP, that was an email. And I think somebody just decided to have a game and put VIP, and then 800 more people followed. You're all going to get access to everything that Jimmy is going to show you. It's Inside Listing Leads. You're all going to get like a 7-day free trial. So you don't need to type in VIP.
I love it.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just saw people like not paying attention and typing VIP.
It's great, man. Listen, it's great. That's the thing about marketing, is when you think about how we react and why we buy the things we buy, that's kind of how we should think about the way in which we present our listings to help our sellers, but obviously to help our businesses as well. Yep. So on that
Jimmy,
note,
by the way, somebody put in the chat, that's just the crowd attracting a crowd. So they are paying attention unconsciously. Okay, show us the third campaign.
That's exactly. Yeah, so jumping back to forward to a friend, and let me just end with the forward to the friend here real quick before we move on, which is, and by the way, I get like 6.5 campaigns. I'm going to give you some bonuses because we got some time for this. So the way I want you to think about this is, can you turn your database of people who are not going to buy or sell into a referral source for people they know who are going to buy and sell? So the forward to a friend is a twist on the, hey, we got a new listing coming soon. It's going to be available in 24 hours. Sure, great. Everyone does that. take your existing customers, your existing database, and turn them into a referral source. There is no better source of business than a warm referral. So take advantage of that. Now, the last campaign to send before the home hits the market is a letter to people who live in the neighborhood. And let me give you an example of this. Let me actually set the stage on this one first. As part of the process of when you take on a new listing, inevitably you're going to do a CMA for that home. How much is that home worth, right? And so, Tom, we've already done the work on the CMA. And what I want you to do is I want you to take that work you've already done and just turn that into a revenue generating activity. And so the letter that I want you to send is after you've done a CMA for a listing you're taking on market, why not let everybody in the neighborhood know, hey, listen, I just did a CMA for your neighbors. Here's some information that you should know. And Tom, you and I talk about this all the time. Personalization matters.
100%.
Right?
100%.
And so we want to build on that, Tom. So let me give you an example of this letter. And this, by the way, everything I'm sharing with you, like this is kind of the ethos of listing leads. Like we fill your calendar with appointments with marketing that works and doesn't require any training. This campaign is crushing right now. So the setup is I just left a listing appointment. I'm going to send this letter to everybody in the neighborhood. Hey neighbor, I just completed a home value update for one of your neighbors. It turns out they gained $38,000 in equity in the last 2 years. Guess what? You live in a highly desirable area, which might be the reason why 3 homes have gone under contract in the last, 7 months. To find out how much your home is worth and how much it's increased, text me. Here's my phone number. And so in your mind, again, the MLS sets the floor, your marketing sets the ceiling. Before the home has even gotten posted to Zillow, we have sent an email out. We have texted our database. We have gotten our database referring us to people who are looking to buy and sell. And we sent a letter out to our entire neighborhood trying to take that one listing and turn it into 2 or 3 additional listings. So we haven't even got to the point. We haven't even got to the point where now the listing's live, okay? And again, in this world right now, in 2025, with 4 to 4.5 million home sales, we have to introduce new pillars that help us get business. Tom and I talk about this a lot. During the 2020, 21, 22 kind of run up, this idea is that when the market was so hot, it was so good, there was a problem. And the problem is, and we all experience this, is that good markets create bad habits. And the bad habit a lot of us fell into was we stopped doing the basics to promote the listings because they were selling so quickly. Now, as days on market increase, there's actually a lot of people think of that as a negative. I think it is as a positive. It gives us more opportunity, more marketable moments to get our listings in front of more people. All right. So Tom, we can't talk about listing promotions and getting more listings without talking about social media. I mean, we have this tool at Listing Leads called the Viral Leaderboard. This thing's amazing, by the way. Like we just track like the 1,000 best creators, and we get to see the just insanely good, like our industry. I'm really proud of our industry, and I'm proud of the agents in our industry who do things the right way. And Malte knows this as well. Like, working with so many top agents, it's like there is so much creativity in our industry, so many things that really just are extraordinary in terms of what they've been able to do. And so let me give you an example of a few that I love. And so this is our friend Esther, who has grown her following from basically nothing to 3,600 people. And she's tapped into what I think is the most important trend on video, which is I call it sort of the faceless creator trend. It's kind of taking over social media right now. And if you look at her Instagram feed, she's part of our featured creators within Listing Leads. If you look at her social media feed, you'll see kind of this repeating theme where she has a listing and she has a CTA, a listing, a CTA. And I'm going to focus on this one right here. This listing, 1,400 comments, 1,400 likes, 219 comments. Now, if I go into Reels, you can see this video here, it has over 40,000 views. And notice it's a simple video without her face, with just some music and some text. And it just pans through the home. There's nothing, this is what should give you some excitement and some encouragement. There's nothing remarkable about this video. except one thing. If you notice the top of the CTA here, she has a call to action called text 81VNM at here's my phone number for more information and a private tour. And she has generated, as you can see here, she's generating over 200 leads off of this one listing by making one small tiny change and adding a CTA at the top of her post. And she just does this over and over and over again. So this is an agent, Tom, who's taking listings, her team's listings, other agents' listings with permission, and she's generating thousands of leads off of Instagram with only 3,600 followers. And the beauty of this, if you notice that she's using a text code, what's so smart about this is that she's getting people to opt in to a text service, which gives her permission to send out text messages to the leads. So she can not only capture the lead, she can nurture that lead and convert it after the fact, which is absolutely brilliant. So shout out to Esther. You guys should be following her on social media. A great example of how to take your listings, use a little bit of automation, and generate leads off that listing. And now one quick pro tip, she automates a lot of this using a service called ManyChat. MANY chat. You can create these automation sequences that make lead generation on social media insanely easy. Now, let me give you one more example of this. Selena, probably my new favorite creator. She's in your neck of the woods, Tom, in Orange County.
Yep.
Have you been following her?
It. Oh, I'm obsessed with this gal. Yes.
I mean, well, just for context, give us a sense of why you like her, so everyone kind of gets that feedback from you too.
So everyone says the same thing, be authentic, be the educator, but like she is unapologetically who she is. She's just this really smart, very bubbly, very warm. She reminds me of, and I say this with like so much respect, my little sister, who is a high-end hairstylist. Like you go to the hair salon to get your hair done with her. And she makes every single person feel like they are her best friend. Like I said to her, I go like, you're basically a therapist, right? When I watch Celine, I feel the same way. Now, is she cute? Is she smart? Is she all the above? Yes. But it is just her super authentic, and she's a killer educator from like getting out of renting to getting your credit report scared. It's all of that we all know. But maybe I'm simplifying it too much, Jimmy. What do you think?
No, it's a great insight. I think the critic will say, "Oh, well, she's this younger, bubbly, right? Yeah. She's got great hair. Like that's the reason why she's grown her following." Well, guess what? Yeah. There's lots of people that meet that criteria. She is a stone cold killer, in my opinion.
Yes.
And the reason why is if you look at the content that she puts out there, she is so insanely consistent, and she has made affordability really the sort of centerpiece of the way in which she presents her content. And like you and I both know, Tom, like this is a big mistake. Everyone makes this mistake. It's a common mistake. Consumers don't buy a purchase price, they buy a payment. And so Selena has just made this sort of 2-degree shift where she just talks about how much is it going to look at the caption here. It's $500,000. Here's your down payment. Here's your loan amount. Here's your principal interest. Here's how much it's going to cost you to live here. Like you can look at 1,000 listings on Instagram like I have, and you will never see an agent with this level of transparency and usefulness. And you could just see the videos that she's producing, 30,000 views, 100,000 views, 12,000 views, 251,000 views. Tom, this is not a home in Orange County overlooking the Pacific Ocean with like 6 bedrooms. Like, look at this. This has got, 100,000. And she just breaks it down in such a useful way. So shout out to Celine, amazing creator. 100% you should follow her. My advice on this is that the creative, this is a quote from Mr. Beast, creativity saves money. Celine is creative with her listings. She gets a lot more exposure. As a result, she gets a lot of business. For her to get the same exposure with advertising would cost her tens of thousands of dollars a month, right?
And so, Jimmy, I would even argue, I bet a bunch of those aren't even her listings.
I'm sure, right? Great point, Tom. Absolutely. Right. Hey, it's real quick, let me throw this back to you because I want to get your take on this because I know a lot of people who are watching right now, they want to get more listings. They love these ideas that we're sharing. You said something that's really smart, which you said, listen, this might not be her listing. How might you if you're an agent watching, approach another agent to ask their permission to promote their listing on social media? Like, what would be your strategy behind that?
Alyssia, you want to take that? Are you asking the audience, me, or?
No, I was asking you, Tom, and Alyssia, sir, by all means,
easy.
chime in.
I mean, easy. I'd be like, ring, ring. Hey, Alyssia, Tom Ferry, how's it going? Hey, I saw your property at 1234 Banana Split. I'm just curious. Would you be open-minded to me going in, shooting a video, giving you credit, and trying to market that on my Instagram stories? Like, market that on my page. Would you be open-minded to that? That's it. Yes or no?
I've had other agents ask me if they could do that on my listings, and I have asked other agents. And listen, it's like everything else. You're going to get a mixed bag of answers.
Of course.
Some people are going to say yes, and some people are going to say no. As a listing agent myself, I'm like, oh my God, go for it. Have at it. Like, knock yourself out. Of course, I am more than happy to do that. But there are some agents who say no.
Sure.
So,
And what's fun is you might be the first person that actually takes that listing and puts it on social, because not every agent does that. Right. So I think it's to your point, it's going to be a mixed bag, but the vast majority, I've seen comments too, people saying, yeah, I ask people and they say, of course.
Yeah. It's the best thing you can do. It's OPL. It's other people's listings. The best thing you can do is take other agents' listing with their permission and help elevate them. It helps that like you're going to mention them, but also it gives you an opportunity. Like, there's no better asset to market than a listing. That's what consumers want. That's what we have. And so taking advantage of that makes a ton of sense. All right. So let's build on this, Tom, because we talked about, let's recap here before we land the plane here. We talked about marketing the appointment, market like you gossip. We talked about turning your database into a referral source with a forwarder friend. We talked about creative ways to use automation and social media and using Celine's technique, like a new angle on affordability. Okay. Now, this is where I think most of the passengers have already exited the bus, because most people at this stage have not committed to promoting the sale the same way they commit to promoting a new listing. And Tom and I both know this because we see this when we're on the road together. There is, if I were to equate it, Tom, I think probably 85% of all marketing and advertising budget, effort, energy, resources are dedicated to the first 7 days. And then the remaining, 3 months is going to be like 10%, 1%. It's going to be the bell curve. Exactly. And so what we're here to do today is to inspire you to say, there is no better opportunity to get more listings than promoting the ones that you just sold. And this, I want you to have the same mindset. I want you to launch your sales, your solds, the same way you launch your listings. And let me give you an example of one that I love. This is, again, within Listing Leads, our buddy Trey. So Trey hit me up. He goes, Jimmy, I sent out 50 letters, 2 listings. Okay. 50 letters, not appointments, listings, 2 listings. And what he has done is he has combined what we call the magic buyer letter story, the magic buyer letter, and the just sold story. And I'm going to read this to you. It says, hey, dear Tom, I know we haven't met in person. Say something that's true early in the letter, but I thought you should know this. This past weekend, we held a couple open houses. That's how 7 people come through. We're reviewing the offers now, but my clients can only choose one to move forward with. I promised the families that came through the open house, I would follow up with the neighbors to see if anyone was in their forever home or consider moving out. These 7 families are looking to purchase a home in your market. If this is your forever home, throw this letter in the trash. Everyone is saying incredible things about your community. I don't blame you for staying. Now, if it's something you consider, I may have a buyer. All I need to do is quick send me a text. We'll do a valuation, so on and so forth. And so like this letter is so smart, because what Trey is doing is he's not waiting to promote the sale, right? Until the home sells. He's promoting the fact that he had a busy open house and he's reviewing offers, which is just like mind-blowing, right? Like, what an incredible opportunity. And so this concept, Tom and I talk about this a lot, is you got to show the sweat. And Tom, real quickly, just for everyone, because we have a lot of people tuning in today, there's another example of the show the sweat. We don't have it on the screen with us today, but it's the one where they tell the story. I believe Stephanie Younger does that one. Could you just give a quick high level on that one? Because I think that one's worth mentioning.
Okay, so I think you're referring to the just sold postcard that says, "Did you hear about your neighbor?" And then the landing
that one.
page.
Yeah,
So
that
so
one.
so everybody just imagine for a moment, so much of attracting more listings is obviously being consistent, marketing, having a beautiful website like Luxury Presence provides, having a great brand and reputation. But a big part of it also is doing things differently. So I've been an advocate for years of getting rid of just listed and just sold postcards because I think they're stupid.
Mhm.
And I think the vast majority of consumers see them, throw them in the trash. So 2 years ago, I'm doing a workshop for a bunch of title execs at F&F, Fidelity National Financial. And I said to them, I think just sold cards are dumb. And then somebody said, well, what would you recommend? And I went on a whiteboard and I said, I would go, did you hear about your neighbor? And I put a QR code in the middle. And everybody went, oh my God. Like, now think about that when you listen to Jimmy and the way he markets and so many smart agents watching. Did you hear about your neighbor? Now I'm like, oh, I knew Phil and Phyllis were getting a divorce, right? Like it conjures up imagination. And it's not Bill, trash, Bill, trash. Just listed, just sold, who cares? I'll go look online. Did you hear about your neighbor? They hit the postcard, they hit the QR code, and it drives into a landing page, which Malte's team can build for you. And instead of saying like, just sold, it says, hey, your neighbor called us because they were looking to do. And then she describes, here are the 15 things we did with that seller to get the home ready, to prepare it, then how we marketed it, then we did our open house, and then we launched it this way, and it got this exposure, and it resulted in $125,000 above ask price, like as an example. But she's explaining the process. The seller reached out because they wanted to be closer to their family and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then what I love is, and Malte, you've seen this, the CTA, the call to action isn't click here for a comparative market analysis. Click here if you're a seller. It said, if you're curious, let's chat. That was it. Just let's chat. And then fill in your name, give us some information. It was beautiful. By the way, I will, Malte, I'll send that to you. We should probably include it in the guide, which heads up everybody. Everyone is going to get an emailed copy of the entire playbook. I had some people seeing, earlier, when do we get the playbook? We're going to email it to you. But Jimmy, we need to transition because we promised everybody we'd be on time. So much value here. If they want to get the free 7-day trial with Listing Leads, where do they go?
Yeah. So if you want to get access to Listing Leads for free, we do offer a free trial. And again, you can go to the link here is listingleads.com/free-trial. And as Tom mentioned, so we'll drop in the chat for you. It's going to log me in here, but I'll log out for a second here. Let me end with this. I'll pull up an example so you guys can see this. Like at the end of the day, what we hope we communicated to you today is that there is so much opportunity for you to take the listings you already have or the listings that are already in market and turn those into more listings. So if you're looking for a bulletproof, proven marketing strategy, if you struggle with marketing, you're looking to grow your business, and you need some help, at Listing Leads, that's what we do. We provide the marketing so we can fill your calendar with appointments, and there is no training required. Take what we use, post it, share it, mail it, send it. It's going to get you results. And if you use tools like Luxury Presence, who have incredible technology to help build landing pages or send emails or do postcards, it works together incredibly well. So we'll drop a link in the chat, free-trial at listingleads.com. Thank you all so much for your time today. Hopefully this was valuable, and love being a part of this, and hopefully helps your business and make sure you're in a good position for the spring market.
Love it. Thank you, Jimmy. So Malte, you're really the mastermind behind this. I'm gonna ask you kind of for closing thoughts. I've got some closing thoughts. I'll have Alyssia go second, kind of sort of closing thoughts. But Malte, I want to thank you and the team at Luxury Presence. It's full spirit of transparency always. I probably should have said this at the very beginning. I had the opportunity to invest a tiny little amount in this company. They raised a lot of capital. And I have been friends with Malte, and we get a mastermind and idea share all the time. So just full transparency. It was such a great move for you to do this. Any closing thoughts before Alyssia goes and I say a couple things to end, and then we get everybody off and into their day?
Yeah, I'd love to finish up here with an offer to share with everyone here. We talked a lot about private listings and the technology to facilitate private listings. This is something a lot of you probably don't know about Luxury Presence. We have built a very extensive suite of tools that
Yes.
can help you share private listings in a secure and safe way with other agents, but also with consumers. And if you want to learn more about those tools, I'll put the link in the chat, luxurypresence.com/private-listings. It's free to sign up for you, so you can get access to a lot of these tools for free. Just head over there and sign up, and we'll get you access. So thanks everyone for joining. I hope this was useful. Yeah, great to be a part of this.
All right, Alyssia, first of all, Malte, thank you. Alyssia, don't scare them, but there was a lot of conversations there. And as my sort of loving, as I say, litigious, coach and agent and former, board president, kind of like just little closing thoughts for people as we move forward, because the change is coming. It's whatever is going to happen is going to happen in the next few weeks.
And so first, thanks to Jimmy. Jimmy's content is just so good. It always is. My coaching clients are having incredible success. My coaching clients who also use Luxury Presence also love them. So Malte, it was great to meet you so much. Thank you. My wrap up thoughts on, the potential changes to Clear Cooperation are really simple. And it takes me back to last summer when we were, or 2 summers ago, when we were, doing webinars about what could be, the fallout from the lawsuit, right? Mm-hmm. And if you fast forward, okay, we had some what felt like very significant practice changes laid out and adopted by NAR members. If we all realize now that almost, yes, our practice changes have been different, but what was the goal of that? The goal of that was to be more clear, more transparent, more educational, and let the consumers, both the buyers and the sellers, make their choices that fit them.
Yes.
This is really actually a much tinier little thing. I don't see a lot changing because if you look at the data, the large majority of homeowners do want their home on the MLS. And as practicing real estate agents, and I am still out on the streets showing homes, selling homes, doing the same thing, it is very, very important we keep the compliance in mind, that you're not trying to do something that is self-serving, that you are educating the client, and we do not make decisions for our clients.
I love it. I knew you'd wrap it that way. So I'm going to take a little different route. And the good news is, hey, my goodness, we said 90 minutes or less. We're going to get to the or less. What I want to say to everybody is, when I look back over the course of my 35 years, which is crazy, Alyssia and Malte, to say that, like 35 years of doing this.
I'm at 27.
Whether it was, the buyer agency, a global pandemic, Blockbuster going out of video, and being replaced by Netflix, being told by a friend of mine, hey, you should check out this thing, YouTube. We just bought it. You should go on YouTube. That was July 16th, right? 2007. Getting to know my buddy, Gary V, because it was kind of he and I and like 9 other people on YouTube at that time. Like knowing what I know now, my friends, it is, don't make things a big deal. You just got to play around. You got to know the rules. You got to understand the game. As one of my buddies once said to me, a former Navy SEAL, he said, sometimes you got to take the map and you got to turn it around and only think about what is the consumer thinking. Stop thinking so much about what you're doing. Think about only what is the consumer thinking and how do I make sure that I align with their interests and make sure that I'm providing the most possible value to them so they win. Like, always and forever, whether it was post 9/11, my friends, God bless, in Southwest Florida, they got devastated by hurricanes almost 20 months ago. My friends in Los Angeles that are still, like, God bless them all, dealing with that crisis. What happened in North Carolina? It's always happening. So the note that I have in front of me, and if you write anything down for me today, write this down. Discipline. Discipline is prioritizing the needs of my future self today. That's what discipline is. Having a disciplined approach to this business, a disciplined approach to our marketing, a disciplined approach to my presentations, the way I am connecting with clients. Discipline is prioritizing the needs of my future self today. I know if someone has listing leads, they're better off. I know, and Malte, you had so many of your clients like, I'm a big fan of luxury, right? Like they know. And some people did ask Malte, by the way, how do they get it? So make sure somebody from your team, maybe we just include it in the email, right? To make sure everybody has a link to take advantage of this stuff. The thing I would say to all of you out there is I have 7 different coaches today, 7 different people that work with me. And that's always funny when they hear from a coach that I have 7 different coaches. I've got a kind of communication speech coach. I've got a business coach who's helping me tremendously. I have 3 different people working with me on my health and vitality. I have a relationship coach. Now you might just say, Tom Ferry, you're a mess. Certainly that could be. Or Malte, what I always say is, I learned a long time ago, everybody pays the price. Everybody pays. So you can pay the price to get a Sherpa and take you up K2 or Mount Kilimanjaro. You can hire the guide, right? And get there faster, safer, easier, or you can pay the price of going it alone. And whether it is, one of my coaches who is a fortune, but she's so insightful. She's worked with so many people like me. She's able to guide me like a Sherpa. That's why I work with her. And all I would say is if that is remotely interesting, you know what I do. You know we are the #1 coaching and training company around the world. I did something in LA, in SoCal a few weeks ago because of what has happened there. So if you are remotely interested and you would like to know what we did as a special for my friends in LA, I'm going to give you an 800 number. And you can, if it's right for you, call my office. The number is 800-624-9575. But what I'm going to ask is, you call and say, okay, what's the LA thing? What's the LA thing? Because we're talking to agents all over the world every single day. But if you're looking for a guide, if you're looking for a Sherpa, if you find yourself getting too emotionally distraught by a lot of the changes, and if you look at really like what we do, Alyssia, it's really about less effort, more results.
100%.
How do I produce less effort, more results? Everybody pays, right? Everybody, you pay if you don't have a beautiful website, and you pay if you have a beautiful website. Everybody pays. I just pay for the guidance and for the Sherpa. And if that resonates for you, 800-624-9575, you can go to tomferry.com. You could, book an appointment there. But I say, call my office and just say, what's the LA special? What's the LA special? And if that's right for you, we'd be honored. All right. So as we wrap, again, Malte, as my partner in crime in this, thank you so much. Right? Just outstanding work. I can't wait for everybody to read the report, give us, reviews of it. Alyssia, always just for who you are. Jimmy, who was out there, Cindy and Maggie, and, already texting back and forth with Noble. Like it was a real pleasure to spend this time with you. And for all my friends out there, God bless you. The only thing that is constant is change. That is the only thing that is constant. Keep your head down, do what you did today, which is get educated and market your face off. And if you need a Sherpa, you need a guide, we'd love it. You need a website, we're always here to help. That's what we do. All right, guys, God bless. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. Let's get out there and serve more customers. Have a great beginning to the spring market. See you soon.